Elisha arrives in Damascus and the sick king of Syria seeks his help for healing. The story unfolds as Hazael, the captain of the Syrian army, is sent to inquire about the king's recovery. Elisha tells Hazael that the king will recover but ultimately die. Hazael then deceives the king by reporting a false message of recovery. After this, we learned about the consequences of Hazael becoming king, with Elisha foreseeing the suffering Hazael would bring to the people of Israel. The narrative then shifted to a new king, Jehoram, who continued the wicked legacy of Ahab and Jezebel, resulting in turmoil within the kingdom of Israel. In the following passages, we encounter Jehu, anointed by a prophet who embarked on a campaign to execute God's judgment against the descendants of Ahab and Jezebel. This brutal campaign marked a significant turning point in the biblical history of Israel. The text provided us with a detailed and vivid account of these events, showcasing the consequences of those who opposed God's will during this challenging period in the biblical narrative.
Notice verse 1 of 2 Kings chapter 10. Now there were in Samaria 70 sons of the house of Ahab. So Jehu wrote letters and sent them to Samaria, to the officials of Jezreel, to the elders and to the guardians of Ahab's children. He said, as soon as this letter reaches you, since your master's sons are with you, and you have chariots and horses, a fortified city, and weapons, verse 3, choose the best and the most worthy of your master's sons, and set him on his father's throne. Then fight for your master's house. Verses 1 to 3 of 2 Kings chapter 10. Jehu, friends, is giving the sons of Ahab the privilege of fighting for the throne of Israel. Not one of the 70 sons is willing to tackle Jehu. Then the elders of Israel, to save their own necks, prove their allegiance to Jehu by slaying the 70 sons of Ahab. Come to verse 11. So Jehu killed everyone in Jezreel who remained in the house of Ahab, as well as all his chief men, his close friends, his priests, leaving him no survivor. Verse 12. Jehu then set out and went to Samaria. At Beth-Eked of the shepherds, he met some relatives of Ahaziah, king of Judah, and asked, "Who are you?" They said, "We are the relatives of Ahaziah, and we have come down to greet the families of the king and of the queen mother." Notice what Jehu says. "Take them alive," he ordered. So they took them alive and slaughtered them by the well of Beth-Eked, 42 men. He left no survivor. In these two verses, verses 13 and 14, and also verse 12, after dealing with Ahab's house, Jehu was on his way to assume the throne of Samaria, of the northern kingdom in Samaria. And now he meets 42 sons of Ahaziah, the king of Judah. He slew them also. It is interesting to note, however, that one of them was spared, and he was a descendant of the house of Saul, verse 15. After he left there, he came upon Jehonadab, son of Rechab, who was on his way to meet him. Jehu greeted him and said, "Are you in accord with me, as I am with you?" "I am," Jehonadab answered. "If so," said Jehu, "give me your hand." So he did, and Jehu helped him up into his chariot. Jehu, friends, still on his way to Samaria, met Jehonadab, the Rechabite. The question he put to him was, "Are you my friend or are you my foe?" Jehonadab was the founder of a very strict sect of Rechabites, mentioned by the prophet Jeremiah much later. He was undoubtedly a man of influence, apparently. He heartily approved of Jehu's anti-Ahab policy and was willing to lend his support by being seen in Jehu's chariot. Verse 18. When Jehu brought all the people together and said to them, "Ahab served Baal a little. Jehu will serve Baal much more." Shocking, isn't it? Ahab served a little, but Jehu will serve him much more. Now summon all the prophets of Baal, all his ministers, all his priests. See that no one is missing, because I am going to hold a sacrifice for Baal. Everyone who fails to come will no longer live. But Jehu was acting deceptively in order to destroy the ministers of Baal. You notice, friends, in these verses, the next thing that Jehu did was to bring together all the prophets of Baal by issuing a false statement that he would offer a great sacrifice to Baal. Jehu had no intention of worshipping Baal. When all the prophets of Baal came together, he slew them in one shot. His sacrifice to Baal was a trap, and all the prophets of Baal fall right into that trap. While it is true, friends, that Jehu slew the prophets of Baal, he did not turn to the prophets of God. Notice verse 29. However, Jehu did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, which he had caused Israel to commit, false worship at Bethel and Dan. Jehu, friends, went back to this false worship that Jeroboam, his forefather, had established. He did not worship Baal, nor the gods of the Zidonians, but he engaged in a type of false worship that apparently came out of the land of slavery, the land of Egypt. Jehu took the children of Israel back, in a sense, to slavery, to Egypt. Jehu did not turn to the Lord, but because he was zealous for the Lord, God gave him an earthly reward. That is, God extended the reign of his house for 4 complete generations. Verse 30. The Lord said to Jehu, "Because you have done well in accomplishing what is right in my eyes, and have done to the house of Ahab all I had in mind to do, your descendants will sit on the throne of Israel for 4 generations, or to the 4th generation." Surprising, isn't it, friends? Although Jehu was such a brutal man, God makes the wrath of man and converts it to the praise of himself. Verse 32. In those days the Lord began to reduce the size of Israel. Hazael, remember that man, overpowered the Israelites throughout their territory. What is happening here is that the northern kingdom is getting ready to go into captivity once again. From now on, there will be a steep decline which will ultimately end in total disaster. These people, the northern kingdom, will soon be carried away into captivity into the land of Assyria. The chapter concludes with the death of Jehu, who had been the king of Israel for 28 years. Now we come to chapter 11. Here we find Joash, the boy king. Just a little boy when he became king. Friends, the story of Ahab and Jezebel, we just considered it, is not a pleasant section. And you will probably have thought that we are through with them completely, but we really are not. While it is true that Jehu had eliminated all the line of Ahab in the northern kingdom of Israel, a daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, remember, had married into the southern kingdom of Judah and was at this time queen mother, just as Jezebel was in the northern kingdom of Israel. Believe me, she took after her parents in the meanest kind of way. Her name, Athaliah. Remember this name, friends. It will cause a chill down your spine. Athaliah. She is going to perform an unbelievably terrible act, gruesome. Verse 1. Notice here, Athaliah murders her own grandchildren. When Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she proceeded to destroy the whole royal family. Can you imagine, friends? As long as Ahaziah had lived, Athaliah actually had been the queen because she controlled her own son. She was so much like her mother Jezebel. Now that Ahaziah was dead, a grandson would come to the throne, and Athaliah did not want it. She was afraid that she would not be able to control her grandson as she did her own son, and therefore she proceeds to destroy the whole of her own family. Verse 2. But Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram and the sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the royal princes who were about to be murdered. Notice intrigue within intrigue. She put him and his nurse in a bedroom to hide them from Athaliah, so he was not killed. He remained hidden with his nurse at the temple of the Lord for 6 years, while Athaliah ruled the land. She came to the throne after her son was killed, and for years she was ruling alone. Athaliah. Imagine the nation. Friends, the nation can become a wilderness if an evil person is on the throne. That is the way Athaliah wanted it. She wanted total, absolute control. But all along, this little boy Joash was growing up. In the 7th year, Jehoiada sent for commanders of units of 100, the Carites and the guards, and had them brought to him at the temple of the Lord. He made a covenant with them and put them under oath at the temple of the Lord. Then he showed them the king's son. Verse 4 of 2 Kings chapter 11. Now you notice verse 5. He commanded them, saying, "This is what you are to do. You who are in 3 companies that are going on to duty on the Sabbath, a third of you guarding the royal palace, a third at the Surgate, and a third at the gate behind the guard, who take turns guarding the temple. And you who are in the other 2 companies that normally go off Sabbath duty are all to guard the temple of the king." And notice what he says now. The guards, each with his weapon in his hand, stationed themselves around the king. Can you picture this? Each guard with a weapon in his hand stations himself around the king, near the altar and the temple, from the south side to the north side of the temple. Jehoiada brought out the king's son, verse 12, and put a crown on him. He presented him with a copy of the covenant and proclaimed him king. They anointed him, and the people clapped their hands and shouted Long live the king. Can you picture this scene, friends? Verse 13, when Athaliah heard the noise made by the guards and the people, she went to the people at the temple of the Lord. She looked there, and there was the king standing by the pillar, as the custom was. The officers and the trumpeters were beside the king, and all the people of the land were rejoicing, blowing trumpets. What does Athaliah do in verse 14? She tore her robes and called out, "Treason, treason." This is Athaliah's version of treason, not what she had done all along. Verse 15. Jehoiada the priest ordered the commanders of the units of 100 who were in charge of the troops, "Bring her out between the ranks and put to the sword anyone who follows her." For the priest had said, "She must not be put to death in the temple of the Lord." So they seized her as she reached the place where the horses enter the palace grounds, and there she was put to death. Athaliah tried to flee. But can you flee from God? Your sin will find you out, friends. She lived an evil life, and she died a horrid death. That is the consequence of sin. They got rid of her, which was, in my opinion, the proper thing to do at that particular period. Now we notice a great revival in the land. Jehoiada, verse 17, made a covenant between the Lord and the king, that they would be the Lord's people. The people and the king make a covenant with the Lord. He also made a covenant between the king and the people. Notice this amazing thing, a total change of scenery between the time of Athaliah and this present moment. Verse 18. All the people of the land went to the temple of Baal, tore it down, smashed the altars and the images to pieces, and killed Matan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Jehoiada, the priest, posted guards at the temple of the Lord. This is the beginning, friends, of a great movement of the Spirit of God. It is nothing short of a grand revival. Verse 19. He took with him the commanders of hundreds, the Karites, the guards, and all the people of the land, and together they brought the king down from the temple of the Lord and went into the palace, entering by way of the gate of the guards. The king then took his place on the royal throne, and all the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet, because Athaliah had been slain with a sword at the palace. Joash, verse 21, was 7 years old, a little boy, when he began to reign. But friends, the removal of Athaliah took a dark cloud off the nation. There was a new king, a little boy, who had counselors to rule instead of him because he was so young. This is a day of rejoicing. What a day it was. David, a descendant of David, was back on the throne. The usurper, the wicked foreign usurper, and her temple of Baal had gone from the land. You know, friends, even when storm clouds darken your life and you are about to give up, the God who brought little Joash to the throne against all odds is the same God who can bring order out of your chaos, whatever chaos you're going through. What He's done for others, He'll do for you. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. May God bless you, friends.
The narrative of Jehu underscores the importance of Deuteronomic worship as a criterion for evaluating kings. While Jehu's character is ambiguous, his evaluation as a king centers on his commitment to correct worship. The centrality of this worship is reinforced when comparing Jehu to Josiah's righteous reforms. Both Jehu and Josiah are reformers, but their distinction lies in their heart's condition. Jehu fulfills God's will concerning Ahab's house, but falls short in wholehearted law observance. In contrast, Josiah's wholehearted commitment to God, following the law, leads to his full approval. Furthermore, Josiah's reforms rectify not only Jehu's shortcomings, but also Solomon's. The key issue is the heart's disposition. Solomon's love for foreign wives turned him away from God, while Josiah's unwavering love for God led to righteous worship. This underscores the significance of an undivided heart in serving God and offers a cautionary tale in Jehu's life for leaders who do not prioritize wholehearted devotion to God. God bless you.